people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A bit of an interesting post from former champion Erica Cruz, who now will not be fighting Amanda Serrano early next month as a result of an atypical finding, an adverse finding. According to Erica, in her own words, as you may know, a few days ago, Amanda Serrano's team decided to throw the fight, arguing positive doping without any basis, where they only truncated a dream. It went to the trash. 3 months of training, 2 complicated injuries, the expense that was spent on preparation. I call this fear, and they only looked for excuses why Amanda never wanted to rematch with me, but I have been harmed in every aspect. My team and I seek justice, and here I leave the evidence that I am a clean fighter. She posted a screenshot of what are her VADA test results. Negative for any banned substances, which now begs the question, if Erica didn't test positive for anything, why did Team Serrano forego the fight? In Erica Cruz's opinion, it's fear, but I don't know that I agree with that because, well, Amanda already beat Erica, and it was Amanda and her team's idea that she should fight Erica again, which does not communicate fear. If they were afraid of you, they never would have looked at you in the first place. They didn't have to offer you a rematch. They chose to do that. So I don't think they're scared.
Then why did they pass on her?
Could be more nuances to this story than meets the eye, because a part of it was there was something off and something fishy about Erica Cruz's finding. And given that the fight date was right around the corner, there just wasn't enough time to conduct an investigation to get to the bottom of what's going on here before you side with Erica Cruz. Remember, this is a fighter who's tested positive for a banned substance once already, which costed her her WBA title. Of all the fighters that have tested positive for banned substances since anti-doping became more uniform and common in the sport of boxing, how many of them have you ever seen cop to the rap and just admit that they were using something? None. Every time a fighter's tested positive for a banned substance, they had some lofty explanation as to how that happened and how that got there, even in instances where synthetic drugs that are not otherwise produced by the body were found in the body via urinalysis. So I hardly expect Erica Cruz, in a situation where there's something off about her samples for a second time, to then cop to the rap. Think about it this way. MVP are the ones who set it all up. MVP are the ones who afforded her a second crack at the apple. They're the ones who officially announced the fight. And I don't think they would have done all that just to scrap it for no reason. There had to be a reason. And the reason, per rumors and subsequent reports, is that there was something off about Erica Cruz's samples. So that at the very last minute, after MVP has officially announced the fight, they have to get back out there and find someone else for Amanda to fight. After they already started promoting this one, well, they wouldn't have made a decision like that lightly. What else I found interesting is who else liked Erica Cruz's post. Stephanie Pinedo, Puerto Rican welterweight Stephanie Pinedo, who some time ago was rumored to be signed by MVP, picked up by Amanda. Now, why would that same Stephanie Pinedo like a post that's basically trashing Amanda Serrano and MVP? Are they not on good terms? Is that why Stephanie didn't sign to them like so many other female fighters we've seen the last few months? Somebody makes a negative post about me, posts it on their social media, and then one of you guys like it. That's basically co-signing it, isn't it?
Curious.
So listen, Amanda Serrano is gonna fight early next month, just not against Erica. And if it's the way that Erica says it is, that she didn't actually test positive for anything, then I guess she will be allowed to resume her career without incident, albeit at the expense of the Amanda Serrano fight, but those are the breaks. Something happened there, and I don't think MVP would have swapped her out like this for no reason.
I mean, right now, everything, and I've talked to both sides about this. My understanding is that when it comes to the Matchroom and Boots Ennis, they're good to go. Eddie has been saying that even, for the last month, probably since Boots' last fight. Discussions between Matchroom and Golden Boy, I don't think they have like a signed contract necessarily, but they are definitely on the same page. They understand the parameters, how they're going to do it, what they're going to do, where they're going to do it, all that business. And of course, DAZN, which is the broadcaster for both Golden Boy and for Matchroom, has heavily involved. And I think they've laid out what their perspective is. The issue in making the match is strictly down between Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya from Golden Boy and Rick Mirigian, who is the manager for Virgil Ortiz. And they're fighting a bloody war in the boardroom over the money for that fight. And if they can't get it worked out, the fight's not going to happen. And Rick has taken a scorched earth attitude about it. And Oscar and Eric are not going to lay down about it. And they're bickering back and forth like cats and dogs. And hopefully that's just the sort of making of the sausage, and they'll get their shit together and get it done. But I know both of them. I know Eric and Oscar and Rick really well. And they're good at what they do, but they're very, very stubborn people as well. And so sometimes that gets in the way of actually getting a deal done.
A little bit bored with these kinds of conversations, though when discussing American boxers, that is usually the case. You're usually talking about why a fight isn't happening and what's the holdup now. So according to veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael, Oscar and Eric and Golden Boy actually want to make the fight at DAZN's request, but it's Rick Mirigian standing in the way. It's a little bit different when the platform that gives you a budget urges you to make a fight. As a promoter, it is in your best interests to make it if you want to keep doing business moving forward, because contracts end. There was a nasty rumor out there last week that DAZN is considering giving Golden Boy Promotions the boot because they're not happy with them, and I advised that Golden Boy needs to do whatever they have to do to smooth things over. And if that means putting Virgil in the ring with Boots, so be it. Who's more replaceable? Some cockamamie fighter and his cockamamie manager, or the platform that's giving you a budget? Priorities, people! A promoter is at liberty to ignore what the fans want and what the fans are asking for. Even if that strategy is ill-advised, they can do that, but you can't ignore your broadcaster. You can't ignore the platform that's giving you a budget, that if they're telling you they want a specific fight, you need to deliver on that. It's said that the Golden Boy Promotions DAZN contract ends next summer. Time is of the essence for Golden Boy to make it right if these rumors are true and it's happening the way that Dan says it's happening. Golden Boy Promotions would find themselves in a compromising position if they were jettisoned from DAZN to then try to get out there and find a new broadcast partner at a time where the networks in America are not investing in boxing. In fact, all the networks have walked away, save Paramount that recently invested in Zuffa, but they don't seem to be picking up anybody else. It's been close to 2 years since the PBC was jettisoned from Showtime, and they've yet to find a new broadcast partner to give them a budget. It's been months that Top Rank's deal with ESPN ended, and we don't know who they're going to come back with or when they're going to come back. They're on unstable ground, and rumor has it that Golden Boy could be next. So making this fight to make DAZN happy is imperative, and Rick Mirigian is standing in the way. It's not for altruism, you know. If he's arguing on behalf of Virgil for more money, it's not a selfless act. If the fighter gets more money, the manager gets more money. He's doing it in his own best interests. And so to the managers in boxing, particularly in America, it's always supposed to work out to where the fighter makes more money, even when the numbers really don't make sense. Whatever you were going to get when Turkey was going to pay for this fight may not be what you're going to make now, because yesterday's price is not today's price. Yesterday, it was Turkey that was going to pay for the fight. Today, he might not be, and those are the breaks. But what do you think? You can afford to waste people's time
While you pout, you can afford to waste DAZN's money. They're supposed to kick out cash to keep you in keep busy fights when there's a perfectly good fight to make between two guys that box on that platform.
Patience runs out. So does money. I believe that Virgil has been campaigning as a junior middleweight for close to 2 years now, and he's been WBC interim champion for a little over a year.
As of August of last year, when he beat Sergey Boachuk and took his interim title.
And he has yet to challenge a champion at this weight to fight for a full title. Now, you can argue that Sergey Boachuk was a solid opponent, and so was Israel Madrimov. Solid.
So fucking what? You're supposed to get brownie points because you fought two solid guys?
What do you expect to fight in the meantime? Cream puffs? On DAZN's dime? DAZN wants you to fight Boots, and both fighters are right there. Both fighters are free.
I mean, the explanation used to be that if two fighters are on different platforms, that is a hindrance, but these two guys are on the same platform. So what's the problem?
The hindrance. Rick Mirigian wants more money.
Don't we all?
Want doesn't always get. While I do feel that this is probably the most high-profile fight that you can make at 154 right now, arguably the biggest one, it's all relative. It's the biggest fight at 154, but don't overstate how big it is in the greater scheme of things. If you did this as a pay-per-view, how much money do you think it would make?
How many people do you think would buy it? Would it do at the box office? 300,000, 400,000, 5? Would it do 500,000 if you built this fight as a pay-per-view? And I don't think it comes anywhere near that number. 500,000 in today's unstable box office market? It's the biggest fight at 154, but it's not so big that Rick should be asking for all this money. Managers themselves set an unrealistic precedent to make a fight based on their own demands, and as stated, it's not altruism that compels them to do this. They get paid from what the fighters make, so when they're arguing on the fighter's behalf, they're really just arguing on their own.
For themselves, personal gain. My honest opinion is I do not expect this to be Virgil's next fight or Boots' next fight, even with pressure from DAZN. You can't force Virgil to take the fight at the price you set. And the price you set may be realistic and in keeping with the market value of the fight, though ultimately you can't twist the fighter's arm or his managers to accept what you're offering.
It's a big part of the reason I often say that today's boxer maybe has a little bit too much autonomy and too much wiggle room to waste everybody's time being greedy, being indecisive.
Never want to be realistic, so I don't expect this fight to happen next. Elsewhere in the junior middleweight division, former undisputed champion Jermell Charlo uploaded yet another training video seen here working the heavy bag with some gloves he's said to have got from Mike Tyson.
It's been approximately 2 years since Jermell Charlo's last fight at super middleweight with Canelo Alvarez, and over 3 years since that same Jermell Charlo last made junior middleweight in February of 2022 for what was the Brian Castano fight. So that when he says he's going to make it now, I find that very hard to believe.
I remember over a year ago when former Showtime sports executive Stefan Espinoza was asked what's new at the PBC and what the then coming calendar year would have to offer, and all he really brought up was the Charlos, the ring return of the Charlo brothers.
Except well over a year later, Jermell Charlo has yet to return. I'm not completely blind to the value of Jermell Charlo returning to the junior middleweight division if he can in fact get back down there. That would shake things up.
He himself, if he can get back down there, would be an interesting addition to today's junior middleweight division and its new crop of champions. Bakram Murtazaliev, Xander Zayas, Abbas Baru,
Sebastian Fundora. Because nobody actually took the crown from Jermell at 154, he could be a very interesting addition, component to the landscape, though as stated, having not made that weight since 2022, now in his mid-30s, I'm skeptical as to whether or not he actually can get back down there. And if by some chance he can he get down there match fit? Because there's making the weight but then there's making it healthy.
If the PBC is struggling so greatly to get Jermell Charlo back out there and get his career some traction since he hasn't retired, why doesn't he just go somewhere else? Matchroom is just as, if not more capable of getting Jermell Charlo back in the ring in a timely fashion than the PBC. I would say the same thing applies to Golden Boy, who they can build him back up, then maybe make a Virgil Ortiz fight.
He's got options.
Jermell, you want to come back at 154, and I assume that you want to come back for a big fight, big payday. If you go to Matchroom, they can build you up for Boots. If you go to Golden Boy, they can build you up for Virgil.
If you go another route, what I think is a better route, you don't come back to 154. You instead make a pit stop at 160, where Yanni Kanalai very soon is set to be stripped of his 2 alphabet titles. You land right there, you pick one of those belts up, you're back in the mix, back in the game.
It'd be a better weight for a guy in his mid-30s anyway. He'd be killing himself trying to boil down to 154, where he spent years and hasn't fought in years, whereas making 160 might be more negotiable, might be more healthy, and there's nobody so dominant at 160 right now that he needs to worry about. It's the ideal place to rebuild himself.
Up until recently, the only guy at 160 that anybody would have had to worry about is Yanni Kanalai, but now he's set to be stripped, and if he is, I don't think he's going to stick around. I don't think he stays at 160 without his 2 belts. He will probably move up. So Jermell should go there.
And if what he's worried about is that the names at 160 are not as noteworthy as the names at 154, remember, all those guys at 154 are going to eventually end up at 160. So before they get there, you rebuild yourself. You become a 2-weight world champion. The value of Jermell Charlo's ring return is not lost on me, but the conditions need to be right. Keep waiting for the PBC to be the ones that sort you out, and look at how long it's taking. It's wasting time where there is still enough time left that if he mounts a comeback now, promptly, by year's end next year, he could be primed for a big fight and a big payday, but he has to make himself interesting, and just uploading training videos hinting at a comeback with no ETA, no potential opponent.
Imagine if tomorrow morning they announced that Jermell Charlo has migrated to Matchroom. The conversation would then immediately become about a Boots Ennis fight, which could gain traction over time as Jermell rebuilds himself, and that could be one of the bigger fights in the American boxing scene involving 2 Americans, but he has to be willing to expand his horizons.
Change of decorum. That by itself is going to be enough to get a lot of people talking.
They'll forget about that Canelo loss and they'll focus on what fights you can have. Wouldn't be hard for Matchroom to find 1 or 2 bums for Jermell Charlo to pounce on, but he needs to move now.